Hey everyone, so I'm filming this video today to talk about kids, and if you have them, I'm sure they're the most wonderful thing that ever happened to you. It's easy to deal with. My God, piece of cake. Who wouldn't have kids? Come on. No, seriously, it's like the hardest thing in the world. And I'm filming today because I wanted to talk about that kid. The kid that throws tantrums and has excessive energy that bothers people, that hits, that just, he doesn't want to go to school, he doesn't listen to his parents, he rolls around the ground, things like that. I'm sure you've seen that kid, and I'm actually filming today just because I know one of those kids, and it's hard to deal with, it's hard to understand, and it's hard to keep going and saying, you know what, he's a human being. The kid's my son. And a lot of times I was the person to judge from before and say, I didn't have kids, and I'd say, oh my God, look at that kid. He's just rolling all over the place. I would never let my kids do that. I would never let my kids, sit on the bottom rack of the shopping cart, because it's not a thing to do, or shout out loud because he doesn't know what else to say. That kid is dealing with so many things that we don't even know, and we're here judging. We're judging the parents, we're judging the kid, and you have no idea how hard it is to have one of those kids. Every day I tell myself it's going to get better and it's going to get easier, and every day it gets harder and it gets more exhausting, and things happen at school, things happen in playgrounds, things happen at friends. And I mean, as much as I try and raise my kids the best that I can, I have two kids completely different. And I have one of those kids, those hard kids that people often tend to leave behind for birthday parties and things like that. My son came to me a few weeks ago and says to me, oh, Mommy, there's a birthday party this weekend and I would like to go. And I said, well, we have to wait till we get our invitation or that the mommy calls me. And a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and we found out that this child, who's mine, was not invited, and most of the class was. Now, I don't mind. It's not something, I don't have to invite everybody. They don't have to invite everybody. God forbid. I mean, that's a lot of kids, but to know that your kid out of most of a class was not invited, that's heartbreaking. That's and when it happens one or two or three times and he doesn't get invited for after school play or whatever it is, he asks me why, why, Mommy, why does nobody ask me to have sleepovers and stuff like that? Well, my son, life's not fair that way. As adults, we judge, and most of the time the parents do that judging. We judge for the kids. We say, well, you know what, you don't need to hang out with that kid. How about you find another friend you can hang out with? I know because I've heard it. I've heard it from my parents, and sorry parents, but I've heard that. I've heard, there's other people to hang out with, and I mean, I totally understand them from a point of view because, we don't want our kids hanging out as teenagers, hanging out with people doing drugs or drinking behind a bar or wherever it is, underage and stuff like that. We want what's best for our kids, but when it's one of those kids that just has a little bit too much energy, that can't sit still, that shouts out loud, it's hard to explain to them that, it's not because they're different, Yeah, they're different, but who says that somebody who has more energy is not good? Most of us as parents are, ADD, ADHD, but we learned to cope with it with the years. We learned as adults to deal with it. And these kids have no idea how to deal with it. They go every day to school and are told to sit on a carpet for 5, 10, 15, half an hour. I mean, what is that for a 5-year-old, He can't sit down and just listen to the teacher, and he wants to move, and he wants to play soccer, and he wants to play football, and he wants to do things. He wants to go places. He wants to see things, discover. They're just full of energy, so much full of all kinds of good things. I mean, my son is the hardest thing that ever happened to me, but he's the best thing that happened to me. He's made me learn so many things that maybe I would have never learned if it wasn't for him. How to deal with stress, how to find patience, how to keep going and not worry about little things, I still do. Most of us do. But he's made me see, color rather than black and white. And the most wonderful thing he made me learn was not to judge. And if you have one of those kids, do know that it will get easier and it will get better eventually, because they will grow up and they will know what to do and how to cope. And we need to hold on strong and make our kids feel like they're the most wonderful thing in the world, because they are. And they didn't ask to be put here and to be judged and not to be liked, or it's so hard to explain. They're little balls of energy. They're like fireworks, You gotta learn to understand them. You gotta learn. It's whether a child has autism or any disability really, whether it's not being able to concentrate, sit down for a couple minutes, not being able to read or write or sing or run, or who cares? We're all the same. Stop telling your kids to be friends with a certain kind of person. Just let them be kids. Let them play. It's my son's birthday in about a week or so, and I told him, I said, you invite whomever you want to invite for your birthday. Now he took out his picture from his class to look at all who's in his class, and he says, well, I want to invite her and him and her and him, and he wanted to invite everybody. He didn't say he moves too much, or she's too quiet, or he cries too much, or she, no, he did not care, because I taught him to not care about things like that. Because if you teach your kid to like a certain kind of person, that's who they become. Ignorant adults, I see it every day. There's people all over the world who just keep judging whether you're black or white or Asian or we're all the same. It does not matter. And it makes me so mad, Anyways, I wanted to just tell you parents and friends and aunts and uncles and cousins that your kid may be that kid, but he's the most special kid. And it does not matter what they're like or who doesn't like them. Because if you teach them that to love and to respect, they will become the best of kids in the world. They will become the best adult. They will not judge. They will not hate, They will just go on with their lives, and eventually they'll find that path that we all wish they find. Anyways, hopefully that this kind of made you feel better today if you have one of those kids that's a little harder to deal with. And if your friends decide that, they don't invite you because you have one of those kids, well, screw them, because honestly, they're not worth any of your time. Have a good day.